On December 24, 1878, in the small town of Gori, Georgia, a boy named Ioseb Besarionis Jughashvili was born into a poor family. The land of Gori, where Stalin was born, is known for its majestic mountains, winding rivers, and rich cultural traditions. However, Stalin's childhood was far from the serene, natural scenery of his birthplace. Stalin endured years of poverty and hardship during his early years. His family lived in a small, impoverished house. His father was an ordinary laborer. He soon had to bear the brunt of deprivation and work to support his family. The difficulties of Stalin's childhood instilled in him an extraordinary resilience and a strong will. He developed a spirit of defiance and a determination to shape his own future. The harsh experiences of his early life later had a profound impact on his leadership style and shaped his political philosophy. You are watching a video on the channel Biography Journey. If you like this video, please give me a like and a share to help us reach 100,000 subscriptions. Thank you very much. Joseph Stalin, the notorious dictator of the Soviet Union, had a tumultuous and abusive family life. His father, Besarion, was a cruel and violent blacksmith who was known for his hot temper and excessive drinking. His mother, Ekaterina, was a devout and affectionate woman who deeply loved and protected her children. Despite Ekaterina's unwavering love and efforts, she was unable to shield Stalin from his father's physical and emotional abuse. Besarion's temper often erupted, leading to brutal beatings and verbal insults towards Stalin, who was often the target of his father's wrath. These experiences left deep psychological scars on the young Stalin, who grew up fearing and respecting his father simultaneously. Ekaterina's unwavering love and protective instincts often landed her in conflict with her husband. She would often try to intervene between Stalin and Besarion, but her efforts were often futile. Despite her devotion, she was unable to completely protect her son from the devastating effects of his father's abuse. Stalin's formative years were marked by significant upheaval. He witnessed his parents' divorce when he was just 5 years old, leading to him being brought up by his grandmother in Gori. This early exposure to family instability instilled in him a lifelong thirst for stability and control. At the age of 10, Ioseb was sent to the Tiflis Theological Seminary, where he spent the next 8 years. This academic immersion exposed him to a strict religious upbringing, laying the foundation for his later political ideology. However, it also marked a period of emotional separation from his mother, who remained in Gori. This early exposure to contrasting environments, the nurturing care of his grandmother, and the rigorous discipline of the seminary, shaped Stalin's personality, fostering his resilience, adaptability, and unwavering determination. Young Stalin's education at the Tiflis Theological Seminary. In 1888, at the age of 10, a young Ioseb Besarionis, Jughashvili, who would later become known as Stalin, was sent to the Tiflis Theological Seminary, one of the most prestigious educational institutions in Georgia at the time. Established in 1829, the seminary aimed to train priests for the Russian Orthodox Church. The Tiflis Theological Seminary adhered to strict academic standards and emphasized rigorous discipline. Its curriculum focused on theological studies, philosophy, history, and linguistics. This rigorous education equipped students with the necessary knowledge and skills to become dedicated clergymen. Although initially disinterested in the rigid doctrines and restrictive environment of the bourgeois school, Ioseb found himself captivated by progressive political thoughts and revolutionary movements taking place across the globe. He frequently engaged in lively discussions with teachers and classmates about these political issues, and a revolutionary spirit began to flicker within him. As Ioseb delved deeper into these intellectual discussions, he found himself drawn to progressive political ideologies and the transformative power of revolution. He became an avid reader of radical literature and actively explored different political philosophies. This newfound interest sparked a desire within him to actively participate in the struggle for social change. Alongside his studies at the university, Ioseb secretly involved himself in the activities of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, a revolutionary faction led by Vladimir Lenin. Ioseb actively participated in organizing rallies, demonstrations, and spreading the ideas of Bolshevism. His political involvement, however, did not go unnoticed. He faced numerous arrests for his illegal activities and was sentenced to imprisonment for his participation in these clandestine operations. In 1903, Iosif Vissarionovich Stalin was expelled from the Tiflis Psychotechnical Institute for his involvement in politically dissenting activities. This momentous event marked a complete abandonment of his clerical path and a definitive commitment to the revolutionary path. This expulsion was a significant turning point in Stalin's life. Having previously pursued a career as a devout religious youth, he now found himself ostracized from the traditional faith that had guided him. This pivotal moment led him to embrace the revolutionary ideology that would shape the rest of his life. By leaving behind his religious upbringing, Stalin embraced a new identity and a new purpose. He dedicated himself to the burgeoning communist movement in Russia, eventually becoming one of its most ruthless leaders. His unwavering dedication to the revolution and his eventual rise to power were directly connected to the ideological shift that began with his expulsion from the Psychotechnical Institute in 1903. At the dawn of the 20th century, the Russian Empire stood on the precipice of profound upheaval. Deepening poverty, rampant unemployment, social injustice, and the suffocating grip of Tsarist oppression plunged the nation into a state of simmering unease. This fertile ground for discontent nurtured the blossoming of revolutionary ideas. Suffocated by the corruption and oppression of the Tsarist regime, the people yearned for change. Various revolutionary movements emerged, drawing inspiration from utopian philosophies and dreams of a new, just society. These movements, fueled by the profound alienation of the working class and the peasantry, advocated for radical changes in social, political, and even economic systems. They envisioned a future where the people, not the Tsar, held the power and control over their destinies. The hunger for change, the suffocating poverty, and the failures of the Tsarist regime laid the groundwork for the revolutionary upheaval that would forever transform Russia. The seeds of change, sown in the hearts of the people, set the stage for the dramatic events that would unfold in the years to come. In 1903, Joseph Stalin, later known as Stalin, joined the Russian Bolshevik Party. His decision to align with the Bolsheviks was driven by several factors. Stalin was captivated by the Bolsheviks' socialist ideology, which promised an equitable and classless society. The party's revolutionary aspirations resonated with Stalin's desire to dismantle the oppressive Tsarist regime. Stalin harbored deep-seated animosity towards the Tsar's tyranny and its harsh governance. He believed that only the Bolsheviks possessed the power to overthrow the Tsar and establish a more just and prosperous society. Stalin's involvement with the Bolsheviks proved pivotal in his life. It steered him towards a political path and significantly shaped his future. Stalin swiftly ascended to become one of the leading figures of the Bolsheviks and played a crucial role in the October Revolution of 1917. Following Lenin's death in 1924, Stalin ascended to power in the Soviet Union and became one of the most brutal dictators in history. Thanks to his organizational and leadership abilities, Stalin quickly attracted the attention of Bolshevik party leaders and became one of Vladimir Lenin's closest associates. In 1912, he was elected to the Central Committee of the party, marking a significant turning point in his political career. Following the October Revolution of 1917, Stalin held numerous prominent positions within the Bolshevik government, including member of the People's Commissariat for Nationalities and member of the People's Commissariat for Labor and Peasants. In 1922, Stalin ascended to the position of General Secretary of the Bolshevik Party, granting him immense power in policy formulation and organizational control of the party. Vladimir Lenin, the leader of the Bolshevik Revolution and founder of the Soviet Union, died in April 1924. His death created a power vacuum, sparking a power struggle among different factions within the Communist Party. Stalin's faction, led by Stalin, Grigory Zinoviev, and Lev Kamenev. They advocated for a centralized state socialist system. Trotsky's faction, led by Leon Trotsky, who believed the Soviet Union should foster global revolution and support socialist revolutions in other countries. Opposition faction, including Alexei Rykov, Nikolai Bukharin, and Evgeny Preobrazhensky, who held dissenting economic views from Stalin. Power struggle. Stalin used his position as general secretary to control information and consolidate his power within the party apparatus. He suppressed his rivals, eliminating Trotsky, Zinoviev, and Kamenev. He also used propaganda and political repression to solidify his position. By 1929, Stalin had eliminated all his major opponents and became the undisputed ruler of the Soviet Union. He established a totalitarian regime that ruled until his death in 1953. Following his rise to power at the end of the 1920s, Stalin set an ambitious goal to transform the Soviet Union into a major industrial power as quickly as possible. He firmly believed that rapid industrialization was the key to freeing the USSR from its dependence on Western powers and building a self-sufficient socialist society. Stalin's vision was driven by a desire to boost industrial output, to achieve rapid growth in production of goods and resources, accelerate mechanization, to replace manual labor with machines, increasing efficiency and productivity, expand infrastructure, to build new factories, power plants, and transportation systems, increase access to electricity, to enable more widespread use of technological advancements. He implemented several radical measures to achieve these goals, including forced collectivization, consolidation of agricultural land and production under state control, 5-year plans, implementation of long-term plans to prioritize industrial development, centralized economic planning, state control over production and resource allocation. The Soviet Union experienced remarkable economic growth in the 1930s. However, this rapid expansion had ominous consequences. The unchecked exploitation of natural resources led to severe environmental degradation. Forests were cleared, and mineral resources were depleted, causing widespread ecological damage. Laborers faced arduous working conditions and endured severe forms of exploitation. Low wages, long hours, and unsafe working environments created a perilous existence for many. Collectivization policies forced peasant farmers to relinquish their land and work on state farms. This led to widespread famine in 1932-1933, known as the Holodomor in Ukraine, resulting in the deaths of millions due to starvation. Agricultural productivity remained sluggish due to a lack of technological advancement and rigid state control. This hampered overall economic growth. Individuals who opposed collectivization faced repression and punishment. Many farmers who resisted were deported or executed. The 1930s witnessed an astonishing period of economic growth in the Soviet Union. This rapid expansion, however, came at a devastating cost for the environment, labor, and individual freedoms. The insatiable Soviet desire for industrial growth led to rampant exploitation of natural resources. Forests were mercilessly felled, and mineral deposits were stripped bare, causing widespread ecological devastation. This reckless depletion left lasting damage on the land and its biodiversity. Laborers in the Soviet Union were subjected to arduous working conditions and suffered under severe forms of exploitation. Low wages, grueling labor hours, and unsafe working environments created a perilous existence for many. The systemic oppression and lack of worker protection led to constant anxieties and unrest. Stalin's collectivization policies forced peasant farmers, known as kulaks, to relinquish their land and toil on state-run farms. This drastic measure resulted in disastrous consequences. Loss of individual control over agricultural production led to plummeting food output, culminating in the devastating famine of 1932-1933, known as the Holodomor in Ukraine. Millions perished from starvation, marking one of the darkest chapters in Soviet history. Despite the immense human cost, collectivization failed to stimulate agricultural productivity due to a lack of technological advancement and rigid state control. This stagnation hampered overall economic growth. Individuals who dared to oppose collectivization faced brutal repression. Farmers who resisted were subjected to deportation or execution. This pervasive repression eroded faith in the Soviet system and sowed deep divisions within society. The Soviet Union's rapid industrialization came at an immense human and environmental cost. The scars of this period linger on, reminding us of the devastating consequences of unchecked economic growth and political oppression. You are watching a video on the channel Biography Journey. If you like this video, please give me a like and a share to help us reach 100,000 subscriptions. Thank you very much. The Second World War erupted in 1939, unleashing suffering and death across the globe. Initially, the Soviet Union, under Stalin's leadership, maintained a neutral stance, signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Nazi Germany in 1939 to avoid a direct conflict. However, Hitler's ambitions did not end there. In June 1941, despite the pact, the German Wehrmacht launched Operation Barbarossa, invading the Soviet Union. This sparked a fierce and bloody conflict. Faced with this sudden attack, Stalin displayed remarkable leadership. He rallied the immense strength of the Soviet people, urging unity and encouraging them to resist the Nazi invaders. The Soviet Red Army fought valiantly, pushing back the German forces at every turn. Notable triumphs, such as the battles of Stalingrad and Kursk, turned the tide of the war. Under Stalin's astute leadership, the Red Army steadily advanced, liberating Eastern European countries and pushing towards Berlin, the heart of Nazi Germany. In 1945, Soviet forces entered Berlin, forcing Germany to surrender. The Second World War concluded with the resounding victory of the Allied powers, with the Soviet Union playing a pivotal role in this triumph. Joseph Stalin is revered as a military mastermind who steered the Soviet Union to victory in the Second World War, one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. However, his reign remains controversial to this day. While some hail him as a brilliant leader, others brand him a ruthless dictator responsible for untold suffering. Those who defend Stalin argue that his leadership was instrumental in overcoming immense challenges, transforming the Soviet Union into a formidable military and industrial power. They point to his successful collectivization of agriculture, rapid industrialization, and the elimination of internal enemies as evidence of his visionary capabilities. Critics, on the other hand, counter that Stalin's regime was built on tyranny and fear. They point to the Great Purge, where millions were executed or sent to labor camps under brutal conditions, and the famine brought on by his collectivization policies. This bloodshed leaves a permanent stain on his legacy. The debate about Stalin's reign continues, with interpretations ranging from a necessary dictator to a ruthless criminal. His impact on the Soviet Union remains undeniable, but the question of whether he was a hero or a villain remains open to interpretation. The Cold War was a period of intense ideological conflict between two opposing camps, the United States leading the capitalist West and the Soviet Union leading the communist East. This conflict existed without direct military confrontation, but its implications were devastating. Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union after World War II, pursued a rigidly communist ideology. He viewed the United States and other capitalist nations as dangerous enemies to be overthrown. Stalin actively supported communist movements across the globe, from Eastern Europe to Asia. He provided weapons, funding, and manpower to these movements, contributing to the formation of countries like China, North Korea, Vietnam, and others. Under Stalin's leadership, the Soviet Union established the Eastern Bloc, a grouping of communist countries in Eastern Europe. This bloc countered the Western Bloc led by the United States, leading to balance of power tensions in the Cold War. The Soviet Union's influence and its competition with the United States caused immense political, ideological, and geopolitical tension that reverberated throughout the world. You are watching a video on the channel Biography Journey. If you like this video, please give me a like and a share to help us reach 100,000 subscriptions. Thank you very much. Stalin's legacy, a complex and controversial figure. In 1953, Joseph Stalin, who held power for over 3 decades, died. His successor, Nikita Khrushchev, embarked on the process of de-Stalinization, dismantling Stalin's totalitarian regime and exposing his atrocities. Stalin's leadership was characterized by rapid industrialization and military might, transforming the USSR into a leading industrial and military power. His role in defeating fascism during World War II is also recognized. However, Stalin's rule was marred by brutality and oppression. His purges and political executions claimed countless lives. He suppressed freedom of speech and religion, establishing a rigidly controlled society. Stalin's legacy is equally complex and controversial. His achievements in industrialization and defeating fascism are undeniable. However, his atrocities cannot be ignored. The debate over Stalin's legacy continues, with some celebrating his achievements while condemning his human rights abuses. His impact remains significant, shaping the course of Soviet history and influencing subsequent political ideologies.